Audi's A4 needed to up its game in the face of tough competition from BMW's 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class and the Jaguar XE in the image-conscious compact executive sector. It has. The styling of this 5th generation model may be evolutionary, but underneath are serious revisions that will challenge rivals harder than ever.
Can 12 million customers be wrong? Well, that's how many people have bought Audi's A4 and its predecessor, Audi A4 model, over the last 4 decades. This compact executive segment contender is the car that has played the biggest part in making the Ingolstadt brand the success story that it is. The A4 now accounting for over a fifth of the company's total output. All of which means that this 5th generation version had better be very good indeed. All the signs are that, well, it might be. Forget the fact that it doesn't appear to be much different from before. Instead, look a little closer and you discover that it is the lighter, sleeker and cleverer product it simply has to be in order to face down direct competitors who've absolutely transformed themselves over the last few years. In 2014, we saw the introduction of the 4th generation Mercedes C-Class, rejuvenating the Stuttgart brand's competitiveness in the segment just in time to sustain its sales against Jaguar's new contender, the XE. Add in BMW's fundamentally updated 6th generation 3 Series to the mix, and it's clear that this Mark V model A4's launch here in the autumn of 2015 came not a moment too soon. Contrary to the impression offered up by its appearance, this is actually one of those rare things, a genuinely new car. Over 90% of it has been completely redesigned, while the rest has been fine-tuned, and the result is a package of far-reaching improvements. Many of these have been made possible by the headline change, the adoption of a lighter, stiffer and cleverer MLB Evo chassis that makes the most significant contribution to the massive 120 kilogram weight saving that this model enjoys over its predecessor. That makes this car up to 21% more economical than it was before, and Audi promises that it'll also make the A4 faster and sharper to drive too. Certainly, the A4 needed to improve its dynamic repertoire. It is, after all, the only remaining volume compact executive model without an enthusiast-orientated rear-wheel drive setup, so it must provide driving satisfaction in other ways. The freshly developed 5-link front and rear suspension setup ought to help here, with its optional adaptive damping. So will the rejuvenated engine range, which offers revolutionary combustion technology to TFSI petrol buyers. Plus, there's plenty of optional high-tech cleverness, quattro four-wheel drive, sophisticated matrix headlamps that think for themselves, and an adaptive cruise control system that, at low speeds, will even drive the car for you. Add in segment-leading connectivity and, as ever, the classiest cabin in the sector, and you've potentially a very strong proposition indeed. Time to put this car to the test. For Audi, there are lots of advantages in being able to platform share with other cars in the Volkswagen empire. But one of the drawbacks of that approach is that the brand can only offer buyers in the compact executive segment a choice of front or four-wheel drive. Given that rivals from BMW, Jaguar and Mercedes all prefer a more dynamic, rear-driven formula, you might expect this to be something of a handicap to A4 sales in a sector that's supposed to prioritise a more involving at-the-wheel experience. Interestingly, in the past at least, this has rarely been the case. Partly this is because, in reality, typical buyers don't actually care very much about this issue, and partly it's because Ingolstadt's engineers have got very good at cleverly moving weight around the car to give it more of the feel that its rivals have. They've done that again here, and this time the process has been further aided by the introduction of a stiffer MLB Evo platform that's up to 120 kilograms lighter than before. Taking that kind of weight out of any car of this size has to make a difference to the drive dynamics, and sure enough, this A4 certainly feels more agile than its predecessor. It still isn't quite as rewarding to drive as its BMW and Jaguar rivals though, something Audi says is quite intentional. Overwhelmingly, customer requests this time around were for a more comfort-orientated car, so this Mark V model has been designed to suit. Hence the impressively hushed levels of refinement and the way that much of the development effort has been centred upon a much more sophisticated, fully independent 5-link front and rear suspension arrangement, which is good enough to match or surpass the highest class standards. We think the standard comfort dynamic version of this suspension is very good indeed, to the point where on a sportier S-Line model like this one, we'd take up the option to ditch the firmer sport suspended passive setup and stay with a conventional layout. If you do want to go further, then Audi offers separate comfort and sport optimised adaptive damping packages that allow you to tweak ride quality via the various modes of the standard fit Audi Drive Select setup. All A4s get Drive Select, one of those systems now familiar in the segment that allow you to vary steering feel, throttle response and stability thresholds to suit the way that you want to drive. It'll vary gear shift timings too if you pass on the standard 6-speed manual gearbox and opt for the 7-speed S-tronic auto transmission that I'm trying here. You choose from comfort, dynamic and efficiency drive select modes, plus there's an auto setting if you can't decide, or an individual option if you want to set up the responses of this Audi in the same way that a race driver might tailor the dynamics of his race car. We can't imagine many A4 owners ever doing that, for the feel of this car is anything but race car-like. Even the dynamic drive select setting isn't especially dynamic, nor does it really deal with the rather vague steering response that continues to characterise this car. An optional dynamic steering system varies the feedback that you get to suit the speed you're doing, but that too feels rather artificial. Work around this though, and it is possible to drive this car very quickly through a set of bends should you want to. It's beautifully balanced with very little body roll and superb traction, aided by a torque control system able to transfer power to the front wheel that can best use it in hard cornering. In fact, there are all the ingredients you need to complement the rejuvenated range of willing direct injection turbocharged Euro 6 engines that are offered with this car. Unusually, for a segment massively dominated by diesel sales, most of the recent under-bonnet development seems to have been centred on petrol power. A fresh 150 PS 1.4-litre TFSI unit replacing the 1.8-litre power plant long used in previous A4 models. It's a likeable engine, capable of 62 miles an hour in 8.7 seconds en route to 130 miles an hour, but its main problem is a position in the range just below a much better one. The new 190 PS 2-litre TFSI power plant is a real piece of work, offering nearly 40% more pulling power than the 1.4, but running costs that somehow are potentially even more efficient. This is all down to revolutionary combustion technology that at low speeds limits the amount of fuel and air entering the engine, but can instantaneously restore full acceleration with a prod of your right foot, dispatching the 62 miles an hour sprint in 7.2 seconds en route to 149 miles an hour. This from a car that in S-tronic auto form is cleaner and more frugal than a 1.25-litre Ford Fiesta. Impressive. Most A4 buyers, though, will continue to give the petrol variants no more than a passing glance on their way to sign up for one of the 2-litre TDI diesel models. So that's what we're trying here. In volume form, this unit's offered with 150 PS and 320 newton meters of torque that wafts you up to 62 miles an hour in 8.9 seconds en route to 130 miles an hour. In this case, though, we've opted for this engine in uprated 190 PS guise, where it improves the 62 miles an hour sprint figure to 8.7 seconds. Diesel drivers will need this pokier unit if they want to specify a much improved Quattro four-wheel drive system that only works with the S-tronic auto gearbox and can shunt torque around between front and rear axles to suit the grip available. Conventionally, it apportions power with a 60% bias towards the rear, but should the need arise, up to 70% of torque can be transferred to the front or up to 85% to the rear. The Quattro setup's optional if you go for the most accessible of the 3-litre 6-cylinder TDI models, that with 218 PS. Took the four-wheel drive box with this engine, and the extra traction improved the rest to 62 miles an hour time from the 6.6 figure you'd get with the front-wheel drive to 6.3 seconds. Go for this 3-litre TDI unit in uprated 272 PS, guys, and Quattro's non-negotiable. Plus, there's so much torque, 600 newton meters, that this variant has to have a beefier 8-speed Tiptronic auto gearbox in order to cope. It manages 62 miles an hour in 5.3 seconds, en route to the limited 155 miles per hour top speed that all high-performance A4 models share. All the really quick petrol A4s have Quattro and auto transmission. There's a 252 PS version of the 2-litre TFSI engine with the S-Tronic box, and it's very rapid indeed, making 62 miles an hour in just 5.8 seconds. If you want to go even faster, high-performance S4 and RS4 models sit at the top of the range and use a 3-litre V6 TFSI turbo petrol unit mated to the 8-speed Tiptronic transmission. The RS4 boosts power using a clever electric turbocharger, but even without that, the 354 PS S4 variant manages a 62 miles an hour benchmark in just 4.7 seconds. With both of these high-performance derivatives, buyers get the option of a sports rear differential that can actively shuffle torque between the rear wheels at speed through tight corners. Audi believes firmly in evolution rather than revolution, and if proof of that were needed, then this 5th generation A4 provides it. The lines are sharper, the stance lower, and the shape a little bolder, but the changes are all very subtle, in line with the need to protect the values of previous models. To be fair, mainstream rivals show equal aesthetic restraint in their volume guises, and, as this car tries to do, attempt instead to emphasise elegance, poise and precision. As ever, there's the option of an Avant Estate body style as an alternative to this saloon, and both variants seize the opportunity offered by this Mark V model's new MLB Evo platform to offer buyers a slightly larger car than before. Time to get up close and personal here at the front, where the bonnet wraps around the upper edges of the wings, features 4 pronounced contours and flows down into the brand's trademark 3-dimensional single-frame grille. This feature's chromed trapezoidal frame extends out towards sculpted headlamps that border the bonnet and can be optionally ordered with Audi's intelligent matrix LED technology, recognisable by its bright white crystal shine. Here, each headlamp unit divides its high beam into 15 individual light-emitting diodes that are activated or dimmed in 64 stages based on traffic and road condition information gathered by an integrated camera. In profile, you notice this pronounced shoulder line that starts at the corners of the headlights and flows back above the door handles to the rear light clusters. And little touches like the fact that the exterior mirrors are mounted on the front doors, just as they would be on a sports car. Plus, as usual with an Audi, the body below the window line is about twice as high as the glazed area from the window line to the roof. More importantly, though, the defining dimensional characteristics of this 5th generation model become obvious from this perspective. For a start, this car is 25mm longer than before in saloon guise, and 16mm wider too, thanks to those fresh underpinnings. Yet the roof height remains the lowest in the premium segment, which explains this 4-door version's class-leadingly slippery 0.23 CD drag coefficient. This also helps when it comes to creating the kind of sportier look you get from this S-Line variant, with its side skirts, sleeker bumpers and this grey matte rear diffuser. All saloon models feature this sharp-edged upper boot lid crease above taillights that feature a multifaceted 3D design. They're illuminated on upper spec models by no fewer than 48 LEDs that create a distinctive nighttime signature. As ever, though, with an Audi, it's the interior that will really sell you this car. The Ingolstadt brand isn't as far ahead of its rivals as it used to be in this regard, but this remains the defining cabin in its class, with surprising headroom, wraparound design and a premium feeling of space and safety. An almost unbroken line of air vents stretched from one side of the fascia to the other, sitting above a 3D trim inlay panel that can be finished in wood or, as here, in brushed aluminium. To your left, the centre console has been visually separated away to give the upper area of the dash more of a floating feel, and small details add to the feeling of quality, like the gear lever that also acts as a handrest for the infotainment system controller, the touch switches for the 3-zone climate control, and the way that temperature displays have been incorporated into the ventilation system's rotary dials. In fact, wherever you look, touch or feel, there are treats. Buttons click nicely, column stalks feel good, and the low-rent plastics you'd find further down in most premium rivals are noticeable by their absence. Only storage space could be better. The glove box is small and not lockable as standard, while the door bins are slim, and the console box between the front seats is rather shallow. We like the seats though, anatomically shaped with head restraints that can be optionally specified to move not only for height, but also, as here, for distance from the head. They position you perfectly in front of the magnesium-framed, leather-stitched, 3-spoke multifunction steering wheel, through which, in standard models, you would view 2 conventional analogue dials, separated by the usual information display. Here, though, as you can see, we've got something much nicer than that. The optional virtual cockpit replaces the entire instrument binnacle with a 12.3-inch LCD colour monitor and has a layout that's fully digital and customisable with smart 3D graphics and highly detailed effects. It can be viewed in 2 ways. The classic display shows you a prominent speedometer, a rev counter and gear indicator. Alternatively, the progressive display reduces the size of these items and brings functions like the navigation mat or your media settings to the fore. And we're going to see many more systems of this kind in future years, but this one really sets the standard they must all try to reach when it comes to clarity and ease of use. And we think you've got to have it with this car. Anything this setup can't tell you will almost certainly be covered by the slimline MMI infotainment display that dominates the top of the dashboard. It's 7 inches in size on standard models or 8.3 inches if you opt for the top MMI Navigation Plus with MMI Touch system that we're trying here, with its crisp 3D maps and responsive NVIDIA graphics. A little disappointingly, it doesn't rise out of the fascia in the way that the screen does on a cheaper Audi A3, but in comparison, the thin tablet-style display is now touch-sensitive with neat pinch and swipe functionality and comes presented in a classy silver-coloured magnesium frame. If you don't want to cover the thing with sticky fingerprints, then there's voice activation, steering wheel buttons and, of course, the usual chrome-edge rotary controller in front of the gear stick, which, with this more expensive package, comes with a surface onto which commands can be traced by your fingertips. Even if you go for the standard MMI setup, though, you'll get the useful Audi smartphone interface with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone connectivity, allowing everything you access on your handset to be duplicated onto the dashboard screen. Add in the optional Audi Connect system and you'll be able to use a whole raft of 4G online Wi-Fi options powered by a superfast LTE module that'll give you download speeds of up to 100 megabits per second. Time to take a seat in the rear, which is where theoretically you ought to most notice the benefit of the extra 12 millimetres of wheelbase length this 5th generation model enjoys over its predecessor. Audi says there's 23 millimetres more legroom back here than there was before, but, well, to be frank, it doesn't feel that much bigger. Partly this is because of the low roof line, though that's less of a limiting factor for headroom than we thought it might be. More of an issue is this central transmission tunnel, which is strangely prominent for what is, after all, a front-wheel drive car. Still, 3 adults are very rarely carried in the back of this kind of car, and 2 will be as comfortable as it's possible to be in a compact executive model. Oh, time to take a look out back. Avant estate models get a standard electrically operated tailgate, and with both body styles you can make that powered system more user-friendly by optionally adding in one of those electrically operable boot lids that can be activated by a waft of your foot beneath the bumper if you're approaching the car laden down with shopping. This car's conventional mechanism flips the trunk to reveal that despite this Mark V A4 model's longer length, boot space is identical to that provided before. That means you get the same 480-litre capacity also provided by BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class rivals. In the segment, only Jaguar's XE lags behind in this respect, offering 455 litres. If you need more, there's the versatility of a 40-20-40 split folding rear backrest, the centre part of which is very useful if you need to carry longer items like skis. Flattening the seat reveals up to 965 litres of space, but if you're someone who's likely to be doing that very often, then you'll be better off going for the Avant Estate model, which offers a 505-litre boot, that's 15 litres bigger than before, extendable to 1,510 litres. An extra cost storage pack provides, amongst other things, a fold-out bag hook, luggage nets and a 12-volt socket, plus the usual optional rail systems and load organisers for Avant customers. There's no additional carriage capacity beneath the boot floor, but that's because, rather refreshingly, Audi provides you with a spare wheel rather than one of those irritating tyre inflation kits. As you'd expect, this A4 is priced closely against its three key rivals: BMW 3 Series, the Mercedes C-Class and the Jaguar XE, which means asking figures broadly focused in the £25,000 to £40,000 bracket. There's a £1,400 premium to go from this saloon body style to the more versatile Avant Estate, and on virtually all derivatives there's the option of finding just over £1,500 more to specify a 7-speed S-tronic dual-clutch automatic transmission in preference to the usual 6-speed manual gearbox. If you're looking at petrol model, then we'd recommend you seriously consider finding the £1,800 premium necessary to progress from the entry-level 150 PS 1.4-litre TFSI variant to a 190 PS 2-litre TFSI derivative that gives you much more pulling power but almost identical levels of efficiency. If you're happy with this 2-litre unit and you want it mated to S-tronic auto transmission, you could also opt to pay the substantial premium of just over £5,000 that's necessary to get it with a heftier 252 PS power output and quattro four-wheel drive. Most A4 buyers, though, are going to want a diesel. Now, there's a premium of over £3,000 to get 150 PS in your A4 with diesel rather than petrol power. But if you do go for the 2-litre TDI 150 PS Ultra variant that most buyers choose, then you'll get more than 30% more pulling power and fuel consumption that's nearly 50% better. The attraction is obvious. Going for this TDI engine in its pokier 190 PS guise requires a £31,000 budget, and at this level, for those happy to pay the extra for S-tronic auto transmission, there's the further option of finding around £1,500 more for a quattro four-wheel drive. By that point, your budget will be getting up towards £35,000, which is the starting point for the 3-litre TDI models. These flagship diesel derivatives only come with auto transmission, the S-tronic 7-speed box with the lesser 218 PS version, or a stouter 8-speed Tiptronic box in the pokier 272 PS derivative. The lesser power model can be ordered with quattro four-wheel drive for about £1,500 more, but the higher power version gets all-wheel drive traction as standard. Having briefed you on the range, it's time to look a little closer at the value proposition Audi's offering here against this car's principal 3 Series, C-Class and Jag XE rivals. List price-wise, there's not much in it if you pitch any of these three against an equivalent version of this A4. A few £100 perhaps, but not much more than that. It's even quite hard to split this quartet when it comes to cost of ownership figures or equipment features. Ultimately, it'll probably come down to personal preference and the feeling you walk away with after the test drive. This Audi's classy cabin and class-leading efficiency has always stood it in good stead here. Given that manufacturers as good as Mercedes, BMW and Jaguar struggle against these key attributes, you can see why other brands have done so poorly in eroding Audi's sales success in the compact executive model segment. Contenders like the Infiniti Q50, the Volvo S60 and the Citroën-derived DS5 would all like to be thought of in A4 terms, and all three will save you a little over this Audi. Unfortunately, though, they don't really have the class and the handling dynamics to carry it off. Sadly, the same is also really true of the stylish Lexus IS, although we do have a soft spot for that car in hybrid form as a petrol-electric alternative that offers diesel-style running costs. Some may want to point out that you can get the same engines that are used in this Audi in a comparable Volkswagen Passat for more than £5,000 less. But that car really competes against Mondeos and Insignias in the mainstream medium-range fleet segment and won't really figure on the radars of most buyers in the compact executive sector. If, having considered all of that, you conclude that it is an A4 that you really want, then you're going to need to know just how generous Audi has been with the standard spec. Well, let's see. Even base SE models come with alloy wheels of at least 17 inches in size, xenon headlights with LED daytime running lights, acoustic glazing, auto headlamps and wipers, rear parking sensors, an alarm and a chromed exhaust. Thankfully, a spare wheel's provided too, rather than one of those irritating tyre repair kits. Inside there's a 3-zone climate control, a keyless go push-button starter, cruise control with a speed limiter, an auto-dimming rear-view mirror and the Drive Select system that allows you to tweak throttle, steering and, on S-tronic models, gear shift timings to suit the way that you want to drive. Saloon versions get an electric boot release, while Avant models feature a power-operated tailgate. True, you don't get satellite navigation with entry-level trim in the way that you would with a rival BMW 3 Series, but Audi says you don't really need that thanks to the way that the standard MMI infotainment system's included smartphone interface can link into your phone's mapping functionality. Inclusion of the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity systems mean that when you plug your handset into the USB port, your smartphone's navigation, its telephone and its music features can be accessed in-car from a separate MMI menu. You'll also get MMI dashboard screen access to your handset's third-party apps too, like Pandora, Spotify and WhatsApp, as well as things like reminders or messaging functions. As you'd expect from this class of car, the infotainment system integrates Bluetooth phone connectivity, voice activation and an 8-speaker DAB stereo system, all controllable either via the MMI controller, by voice, through buttons on the multifunction leather-stitched steering wheel or via a 7-inch colour touchscreen. If you want a plusher level of standard spec on your A4 and you have the budget to progress beyond SE level, then you open up for yourself not only more equipment, but also a wider range of engine and drivetrain choices. Around £1,000 more will take you to mid-range sport spec with its standard navigation system, upgraded 10-speaker Audi sound system and various trim embellishments. Alternatively, finding around £2,500 over the cost of SE trim will take you into an S-line variant like the one we're trying here. Here you get a far more dynamic look, courtesy of larger 18-inch wheels, LED headlamps and tail lamps, and an S-line body styling package that gives you smarter bumpers, as well as changes to the side sills and the rear diffuser. Plus, there are chrome-trimmed front side linnet grills and dynamic rear indicators that put on a sweeping light show every time you turn them on. Inside, you get a sports steering wheel and embossed sports seats that are cloth and leather trimmed. There's also lowered sports suspension, although, thankfully, you can have the option to do without that if you'd rather avoid the chiropractor bills. Since we're talking about suspension, I'll point out that it's actually quite a key A4 issue. We think as a standard setup's very good, but if you don't want to change things, avoid the lowered, firmer sports suspension option I just mentioned and opt for one of the adaptive systems. Now with these, you choose between either comfort or sport-orientated packages, and either way, you get damping that you can control via the various modes of the Drive Select vehicle dynamics system to suit the way that you want to drive. Now there's also a dynamic steering option that varies the steering ratio based on your speed and the Drive Select mode that you've chosen, but it doesn't really succeed in offering the kind of feel that you'd really want. Better, we think, to spend your money on two extra cost features that we'd really like to have in this car. Firstly, there's the optional 12.3-inch virtual cockpit TFT colour instrument display that we've been trying here, provided to completely replace the instrument binnacle's conventional dials. It's totally configurable, very futuristic, and probably represents this model's biggest showroom talking point. Out on the road, though, after dark at least, you might find yourself more inclined to brief your passengers on the cleverness of Audi's cutting-edge matrix LED headlamps. Now, these incorporate sensors and an inbuilt camera that detects other road users as well as ambient light in built-up areas. They then react by dipping individual LEDs to prevent dazzle while still fully illuminating the remainder of the road. They even draw from the vehicle's navigation data to anticipate corners, adjusting LEDs as you negotiate the bend. Brilliant. Both the virtual cockpit and the matrix lights can be ordered separately or as part of a light and vision pack that also throws in extended coloured LED interior lighting. Alternatively, there's a vision pack which bundles the virtual cockpit feature up with a head-up display and high beam assist headlamps that dip themselves in the face of oncoming traffic. We should point out that both of the vision packs I've just mentioned require you to have first of all signed up for the technology pack that almost all A4 buyers will want to stretch to if budget allows. Here, the most important inclusion is Audi's sophisticated MMI Navigation Plus with MMI Touch system, with its larger 8.3-inch colour touchscreen, crisp 3D map display, 10GB music hard drive, DVD player and responsive NVIDIA graphics. Further technology pack inclusions run to a touch-sensitive surface for the MMI rotary controller so that you can trace commands with your fingertips, the Audi phone box system that wirelessly charges your smartphone and improves its reception quality via the roof antenna, and a 3-year subscription to the thing that really completes the MMI setup's functionality, namely the Audi Connect connectivity system. Audi Connect is something I really need to tell you a bit more about. Even if you don't specify the technology pack that I just mentioned, this is a setup you'll get to try free for the first 3 months of ownership, providing you avoid entry-level trim. It underlines Audi's determination to create in this car class-leading levels of media connectivity, providing an LTE data transmission module that establishes high-speed 4G Internet 3 access and creates, in your A4, a Wi-Fi hotspot. It also allows you to navigate with images from Google Earth, access a Google Points of Interest search function with voice control, and use a web radio setup with stations from around the world. Through the Connect system, you can access special in-car versions of your Facebook and your Twitter pages, and it's also possible to read, write and send text messages and emails. The included online media streaming package gives access to millions of music tracks. And there's also a clever Audi online traffic information system that uses live traffic information to reroute you around jams. Plus, the setup can also deliver parking information, displaying details on parking lots and parking garages almost anywhere that you're likely to go. Truly, this is motoring in the 21st century. What else? Well, if you can't stretch to those advanced matrix headlamps, this S-Line variant's more conventional LED headlights look almost as smart and are optionally available with the 2 lower trim levels. We'd be tempted by the parking assistance pack with its 360-degree camera system and parking assist setup that searches for spaces and then steers you into them. And we would definitely want to look at the 19-speaker, 755-watt Bang & Olufsen sound system with its concert hall quality 3D sound, a feature that can also be ordered as part of a comfort and sound pack that additionally gives you electric seats and a keyless entry system. Other key options include a rear-view camera, a heated steering wheel, privacy glass, heated seats in the front and the rear, roll-up blinds for the rear side windows, a heated windscreen and an electric glass roof that's even bigger if you go for the Avant variant. If you're pushing the boat out a little further, you might want to look at the Audi Entertainment Mobile, a package that gives you a couple of 10.1-inch colour screens along with headphones for rear seat passengers. There's an optional TV tuner too. In terms of the aesthetics of your A4, if budget allows, you can really go to town. You can specify interior inlays in silver, aluminium, piano black or veneered wood finishes. Plus the seats can be trimmed in Milano or Napa leather or a leather Alcantara combination. Would also like the variable head restraints that tilt in and out as well as up and down. Outside there's a choice of alloy wheel designs with rims that vary in size from 17 to 19 inches. You could also specify a black styling pack that uses that colour on the grille, on the door mirrors and the window surrounds. If practical touches are a greater priority for you, then there's a storage pack that'll give you netting for the boot and front seat backs, a rear centre armrest and a driver's storage compartment. Avant buyers, meanwhile, can protect the boot area with a variable foldable boot mat and organise trunk items via a rails system that comes with a load securing kit. Whatever your choice of body style, there's also the option of a retractable tow bar and a hands-free boot operating system. You simply wave your foot beneath the bumper if you approach the car laden down with heavy shopping. On to safety. Now, even the most basically specified A4 will come very well provided for indeed in this respect, with a standard fit highlight on all models being a collision avoidance system that Audi calls Pre-Sense City. This is one of those setups that constantly scans the road ahead in search of potential accident hazards. If it detects one, you'll be warned. If you don't respond or you aren't able to, then the system will automatically brake the car and should be able to avoid a collision at speeds of under 90 miles an hour. If you're going faster than that, then the Pre-Sense City system will reduce your speed to soften the impending impact. If you do hit something and panic, a standard multi-collision brake assist system will automatically take over braking duties to avoid the possibility of skidding and further collisions. As for more common standard safety features, well, all versions of this car also get Isofix child seat fastenings, anti-whiplash head restraints and a tyre pressure loss indicator, plus twin front, side and curtain airbags with rear side bags, an extra cost option. In addition, as expected in this segment, there's a complete roster of electronic acronyms, including the usual electronic assistance for braking, traction and stability control. There's also a rest recommendation feature that monitors your driving for drowsiness and will alert you to stop if necessary for a restorative copy. On uphill junctions, you'll be glad of a hill hold assist feature that stops you from drifting backwards. It's always possible to go further though, and should you want extra peace of mind, your Audi Centre salesperson will doubtless point you towards the choicest elements of the safety technology developed for this car, all of which require you to have previously specified the technology pack that I was talking about earlier. We'll start with the Parking Assistance Pack Advanced package that includes 5 key features. A cross-traffic assist rear feature alerts you to oncoming cars if you're reversing out of a space, and an exit warning system monitors the rear and side of your A4 as you get out of it, alerting you if vehicles or cyclists are approaching from behind. On the move, Audi Side Assist works as a blind spot monitor, warning you if you're about to dangerously pull out to overtake in the path of another vehicle. Plus, there are Audi Pre-Sense Basic and Pre-Sense Rear features that, in the event of an inevitable front or rear impact, optimally prepare the car to best survive it. The other, even more significant combined safety feature option you'll be offered with this car is called the Driver Assistance Pack Tour package. This gives you 6 key extra electronic safety items that really could make the difference between a near miss and a very bad day. Let me run through them for you. We'll start with a system the Ingolstadt brand calls Pre-Sense Front. Now, you remember that standard Pre-Sense City setup I was just telling you about, that at low speeds scans the road ahead for collisions and can automatically brake to avoid them? Well, wouldn't it be good if that setup operated at higher speeds too? With Pre-Sense Front, it does. Even cleverer is what we'd see as probably the most sophisticated driver assistance pack tour feature, something that Audi calls adaptive cruise control with stop and go and traffic jam assist. This system's there to automatically keep your A4 a set distance behind the car in front on the highway, warning you if you're too close to another vehicle and able to automatically stop you and then start you off again if you come across a tailback. The traffic jam assist bit also frees you up in slow to medium speed queues, allowing the car to automatically brake, accelerate and steer for you at speeds of up to 37 miles an hour. Yes, really. I haven't finished either. An equally clever predictive efficiency assist system works with this setup, regulating your Audi's speed for maximum efficiency and also offering driving tips that could create fuel savings of up to 10%. Well, you think that's neat? Then check out the third driver assistance pack tour feature. It's called Turn Assist. Now, say you're turning out of a junction and you haven't seen an oncoming car or bike. Turn Assist will automatically apply the brakes, preventing the accident. If only every car had that feature. Other more familiar inclusions in the pack run to traffic sign recognition that can picture road signs and display them for you on the dash, Audi Active Lane Assist, there to gently steer you back into your lane if you inadvertently drift out of it, and a so-called collision avoidance assistant that tweaks the steering to keep the car stable in emergency manoeuvres. Now, it's all very reassuring. This car can be up to 120 kilograms lighter than its predecessor. Now, think about that for a moment. We're talking about a reduction equivalent to the saving you'd make if you asked your partner and your eldest child to get out and walk. The result is the lightest contender in the compact executive segment, despite this Audi also being the longest and widest model of its kind that you can buy. Impressively, the brand has managed this while continuing to fashion this car almost entirely from steel. A Jaguar must find it extremely irritating that their part aluminium XE model weighs in at 45 kilograms heavier than its A4 rival. The result is that Audi has been able to achieve efficiency savings of up to 21% across its Euro 6 engine range with this car. And running cost returns with the headline 2-litre TDI Ultra 150 PS saloon model that on standard 17-inch wheels see it theoretically able to achieve 99 grams per kilometre of CO2 and 74.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. That qualifies this variant for a benefit-in-kind rating of only 17%. It may not be coincidental that these readings exactly match those of the efficiency class leader, the 163 PS version of Jaguar's XE 2-litre D. These two contenders, the only ones in the class able to dip below the 100 grams per kilometre of a CO2 threshold in base diesel form with a manual gearbox. Obviously, if you specify your A4 2-litre TDI Ultra with larger wheels, the heavier Avant body style or the S-tronic auto gearbox, you'll fractionally affect this showing, but it won't be by very much. Even specifying the pokier 190 PS diesel engine that I'm trying here doesn't have a huge effect. In this case, you're looking at 72.4 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 102 grams per kilometre of CO2 for a manual model. What will affect this showing is adding in the Quattro four-wheel drive system that diesel A4 drivers can only get with the 190 PS model and which can only be paired with the S-tronic auto transmission. Even so, with this variant, you're still looking at 64.2 miles per gallon and 114 grams per kilometre. Of course, this impressive showing isn't solely down to reduced weight. A whole series of other improvements play their part too. For example, a slippery CD factor of 0.23 makes the saloon version of this car the most aerodynamic model in the segment. This is something aided on 2-litre TDI variants by a controllable cool air inlet, a frame installed behind the radiator grille housing two blinds that close at low speeds and open at higher ones to improve air resistance. Also neat is an engine stop-start system that cuts in as you coast to a halt rather than waiting until you come to a complete stop. This means that in traffic the engine is off more often than it would otherwise be. Plus, of course, you get the usual efficiency benefits designated by the Ultra badge, a package of changes that involve modifications to the transmission ratios, the bodywork and the suspension, as well as the use of low rolling resistance tyres. All of these things allow the TFSI petrol power plants to shine too, to the point where you shouldn't automatically sign on the dotted line for a 2-litre TDI model before checking them out. In this part of the range, the 1.8 litre unit previously used has been swapped for a downsized 1.4 litre engine that offers similar performance but much better economy, 53.3 miles per gallon and 126 grams per kilometre of CO2. Even more impressive is the fact that the much pokier new 190 PS 2-litre TFSI petrol unit can actually better that showing. In S-tronic form, this variant manages 55.4 miles per gallon and 116 grams per kilometre of CO2. The manual version returns 50.4 miles per gallon and 127 grams per kilometre. This is thanks to revolutionary combustion technology. At low speeds, this limits the amount of fuel and air entering the engine, effectively leaving it operating as if its capacity were 1.2 litres. Accelerate hard, though, and the switch back to full capacity is seamless. This system also benefits this 2-litre TFSI engine in its pokier 252 PS guise, where it's paired with S-tronic auto transmission and quattro four-wheel drive. Here, the figures are 47.9 miles per gallon and 136 grams per kilometre. For completeness, I'll also give you the figures for the high-performance models, starting with the bigger capacity 3-litre 6-cylinder TDI diesel. In 218 PS form, this manages 67.3 miles per gallon and 109 grams per kilometre, or 64.2 miles per gallon and 115 grams per kilometre if you specify quattro four-wheel drive. Go for this engine in pokier 272 PS guise, where it only comes with four-wheel drive, and the figures are 55.4 miles per gallon under 134 grams per kilometre. That only leaves the 3-litre TFSI petrol V6 used in the high-performance S4 and RS4 models. Even this unit puts in a pretty respectable showing, in the S4 managing 38.2 miles per gallon and 170 grams per kilometre of CO2. Magazine tests have pointed out that across the board the figures I've quoted can be difficult to achieve in real-world motoring, but then that is not an issue exclusive to Audi. Much will depend on the driver, hence the Ingolstadt brand's efforts with this car to help the person at the wheel do more when it comes to efficiency. As usual with the company's models, there's an efficiency setting on the Drive Select vehicle dynamic system, which tweaks the air conditioning, the gear shift timings and the throttle response for maximum frugality. Going further than this requires use of the optional Predictive Efficiency Assist setup that Audi says could potentially improve your fuel economy by as much as 10%. It works with navigation data and the Adaptive Cruise Control system that comes as part of the extra cost Driver Assistance Pack Tour package. How? Well, by analysing any given route once set to decide how the journey could be undertaken more efficiently. In doing this, the speed limits, the traffic signs, the bends and roundabouts you'll be encountering along the way are all taken into account. The setup then offers driving tips that'll help you achieve better running cost returns. Perhaps, for example, a junction is out of your sight around the next bend and you could take your foot off the accelerator a little earlier. Get onto the motorway, and with the Adaptive Cruise Control system activated, Predictive Efficiency Assist will automatically make all the frugal driving adjustments for you. If it knows that you're going to be travelling for a few junctions, it'll even disengage the engine at cruising speeds for greater efficiency and then re-engage it immediately and almost seamlessly when you either accelerate or brake. What else? Well, one small irritation is that in order to keep weight down, Audi only fits this car with a small 40-litre fuel tank. A proper sized 54-litre tank is a no-cost option though, so make sure you ask for it. If you've a diesel model, then these days a second tank is needed too. This one for the AdBlue additive that works with the TDI unit's diesel particulate filter and selective catalytic reduction system to remove particles and nitrogen oxides from the exhaust emissions. In the same way, Audi has also reduced the size of this tank. It's just 12 litres in size as standard, which will mean quite frequent AdBlue top-ups when your car is in for service. Again, a bigger tank, this one 24 litres in size, is a no-cost option that you'll need to ask for. Talking of maintenance, costs here can be kept down if you go for one of the prepaid servicing plans that you'll be offered at initial purchase. In fact, this car can even book its own service appointments via an Audi Connect safety and service system. As well as providing emergency calling and online roadside assistance, this feature can, at the appropriate time, send a service request direct to your local dealer. Onto the warranty. All cars in this class get 3 years of cover, but where BMW, Mercedes and Jaguar don't limit your mileage in this period, Audi rather meanly restricts you to 60,000 miles. Optional extra cost packages can extend the cover to either 4 or 5 years. As for insurance groupings, well, they'll be very comparable to those of the other premium brands in this segment. I'll finish by covering residual values, which, as usual with the Ingolstadt brand, are predicted to be very strong, reflective of the unsurpassed build quality on offer here. Independent experts Cap Monitor reckon that over the usual 3-year, 60,000 mile ownership period, a 2-litre TDI diesel A4 like this one will cling on to around 40% of its original asking price. That's fractionally behind a comparable Jaguar XE 2-litre D, but comparable to a Mercedes C200D and well ahead of a BMW 320D. When it comes to petrol models, the 38% value retention figure you can expect from a 2-litre TFSI variant vanquishes the German opposition, while the 39% figure you get from the base 1.4-litre TFSI variant is easily class-leading. Cap also reckoned that low depreciation will combine with the fuel and CO2 savings here to create impressive overall pence per mile running cost figures. Here again, this A4 vies with Jaguar's XE for overall class leadership and gives BMW a severe beating. Over that standard 3-year, 60,000 mile period, Cap reckons that a 2-litre TDI Ultra 150 PS version of this Audi would cost 36.28 pence per mile to run, which makes it nearly 3 pence per mile cheaper in this regard than a rival BMW 320d ED+. Doesn't sound much. Well, over 60,000 miles, that difference would add up to £1,800. Enough said. For completion, I'll tell you that the running cost figures for the mainstream petrol models are class-leading in this regard. The 1.4 TFSI variant manages 36.07 pence per mile, while the standard 2-litre TFSI derivative delivers 38.84 pence per mile. Here's a car created by a brand that knows its customers. The magazines might tell Audi to bring us futuristic looks and an uncompromisingly dynamic drive, but Ingolstadt knows that buyers in this segment really value comfort, class and quality. All three attributes are prioritised in this lighter, more agile and more advanced 5th generation A4. Could this winning formula have been more daringly refined this time around? Well, perhaps. The looks are certainly conservative, and this still can't claim to be the enthusiast's choice in the sector. In all the ways that really matter, though, this car represents a useful step forward, fully representative of the 4 decades of experience Audi now has in this segment. It's a classy and now quite spacious contender that's more composed than ever to drive and is fully conversant with the kind of high-tech design, cutting-edge connectivity and faultless cabin quality that its target junior executive market likes to expect. So it stacks up in the showroom just as well as it does on the balance sheet, with running cost returns that match the highest segment standard for diesel models and that set a new level for petrol power. Your accountant will approve. Even more than before, this A4 feels like a car that's been lovingly and very carefully considered. The depth of engineering and the thought that's gone into the tiniest details combine to further enhance the warm, fuzzy feeling that's charmed Audi customers for years. If you are one of these people, then you'll like this car very much. Even if you're not, you'll find it hard not to be impressed by the way it systematically ticks almost every box on the compact executive market wish list. It's very thorough, very elegant, and very Audi.